Good afternoon. Welcome to Sunday Sessions with Courtney Pollock. Courtney is the original tie-dye artist was for the Grateful Dead. He continues to do his amazing artwork now, which is available to anybody through his online store. But today we are going to hear some of his stories of when he was a young boy, and which kind of helped develop him slowly into the amazing man he is today. And as we go on, we'll continue with other stories, but we're going to start in the early years. So here's Courtney Pollock.
Thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome, and I'll leave it to you. Enjoy.
Very well. Well, hello. So, growing up in England, well, I was born at the end of the Second World War. First World War would have been a bit of a stretch, even though I'm looking a little haggard now. Second World War, so I was born in 1946, and at that time, of course, things were pretty tough in England. The country was ravaged from the war. There was very little food, and we all had our little ration books. I remember as a tiny child standing in line with my mother, and we each had these little ration books, and we'd wait for God knows how long to get to the head of the queue, and they were handing out, you'd hand your little ration ticket, and I'd get 2 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of cheese, 2 eggs, maybe half a loaf of bread, and that's about it, maybe a tin of something. And it wasn't really enough food for one day for one person. I mean, it wasn't hardly subsistence. And this was a weekly ration. I mean, things were really tough. So as a little kid, my mother said, "Oh, I'm not hungry." And she would go without food. And she'd say, "No, I already ate," or, and what did we know? We were little kids. But as, time went by and realized, of course, how desperate things were. So I started scrumping. Well, scrumping, for those that don't know what scrumping is finding fruit trees and, filling your pockets or taking a little bag and, scrumping the fruit. Well, there was a lot of fallow land and buildings with no tenants because they were lost in the war. And so fruit trees were just going to waste. Fruit was going to waste. So I'd go in and strip those trees and bring food back to the house, or trade with other people for other like vegetables or something. And then as time went on, I think I was maybe 7, and I realized nobody was doing anything without gardens, so I started growing potatoes and carrots and root food, which was easy. It just grew itself. It didn't really need any tending. I didn't need to have any skills, but the whole thing was to bring food to the table for the family. And it became a life quest for me as a boy. And at a very early age, I wanted a bicycle. And my dad used to be a fighter pilot in the RAF, so he really didn't have any skills except for flying a plane. And but after the war, there was all of this carnage, of course, and bombed buildings, and a lot of people who inherited these bombed buildings that still had furnishings. And my dad would put a bid on, and it's called an estate sale. So you put in a bid for everything in the house. He'd have a look through and, offer £100 or something really nominal. Of course, £100 went a lot further 60 odd years ago. But so he had what he called an antique store, and there were some antiques, of course. There was some beautiful antiques that he'd get from these estate sales, and I would help him load out these houses. And he had this old van, and he'd load the van up, and he had a tailgate, and it would be dragging on on the road. It was so burdened. And he said, just get on the back of it, Courtney, stand on the tailgate and hold on to the sides and hold all the furniture in, would you? Well, he drives down the road, and I was like, are you crazy? It'll just like, you take off and it's all going to fall on me. And he said, no, I'll go really slowly, don't worry about it. So that's how we went down the road. I'm like, holding on for dear life. And sure enough, the furniture's shifting and it's like trying to push me off the back of the tailgate and all fall on me. And, you know, are you all right back there? And I said, a little slower, please, Daddy. So, quite comical, really, but it reminds me of Steptoe and Sons. I don't know if you had that program over here, but it was hilarious about this junk dealer and all his escapades. My dad was much like that, although he had the charming debonair, you know, Errol Flynn look and mustache, you know, from being one of the Glory Boys as a fighter pilot. And he actually did bit parts in movies. A friend of his was a movie producer because he had that debonair flair. But so anyway, I used to get a few shillings from helping my dad, and then he started tutoring me on the trades. And he'd buy an old Victorian home. We'd go in and room by room we'd renovate it, and he'd figure out the plumbing and the electrics. And by the time I was 11, I had a number of trades under my belt. You know, painting, decorating, stripping old paint. Of course, it was lead paint back then. You know, and I'm just like burning it off and breathing the fumes, and you know, then painting with more lead paint, and it's a wonder I have any brain cells left. Well, actually, I had enough brain cells left to get high later on, but that's another story. But going back to the early years a little bit, I wanted a bicycle, and so I went to the rubbish heap, which is the dump, you know, and I found, you know, a decent bicycle frame and wheels and all the bits and pieces. And all I really needed was new brakes and new saddle, because they rotted, of course, and maybe cables. So I put together a bicycle, stripped it all down, painted it bright red and yellow, and I had a bell on it. And I rode into school really proud of my bicycle that I had made from the rubbish dump. And all the boys like all crowded around and said, I want one just like that. And I said, okay, it'll be £4, 10 shillings. And I started building bicycles from the kids at school from the rubbish dump. And it would cost me about under 10 shillings for a new saddle and the new brakes and the bits and pieces that I really needed. And the rest I just strip and emery paper down and make everything clean and then paint them all bright colors. And ka-jing! So when I have a sale on my, this is just a little aside, when I have a sale on my site, my phone does a ka-jing like an old-fashioned cash register. It's, I love that sound. So anyway, I started making money selling bicycles. And also, my dad would, he'd have all these bits and pieces in his shop, and there was this beautiful Victorian furniture that was so well built. They're all handmade, great, you know, absolute beautiful old woods, and superbly crafted. And great big armoires and credenzas and, you know, dining table sets and things. And he said, oh, help me back, you know, to the back of the shop, you know, take it out of the yard, chop it up for firewood, would you? And I said, but it's beautiful furniture. You can't get anything for it. It's not an antique. It's not over 100 years old. So, and I said, but it's 85, 90, you know, it's like, just, you know, if you keep all this really good stuff in some barn somewhere, keep it dry, and in 10 years' time, they'll be antiques. And, oh, rubbish, Courtney, you can't do business like that. So anyway, I would take these and I would take out all of the solid wood. You get, 1.5 to 2-inch slabs of heartwood, of oak and mahogany and ash and all these exotic woods and rosewood and beautiful, beautiful hardwoods. So I would put them off to the side and chop up the rest of it for firewood. And and then one day I said, Daddy, I have to tell you, I've been putting aside some of the pieces of wood from this furniture that I've been dismantling, and I wonder if I can have it. He said, well, good Lord, Courtney, well, what on earth are you going to do with it? I said, well, I'm going to make coffee tables. And he said, oh, well, good idea, jolly good. Yes, of course, you can have anything you want. And so I started shaping these beautiful pieces of wood and chamfer the edges and do a lovely finish on it. And there were these legs that you could just buy. You screw the brackets into the bottom of the surface and screw the legs in. They came out like an angle and they were chamfered down with little feet, and they were very modern looking for those days. And he said, well, where are you going to sell them? And I said, I'm going to sell them in your junk shop. I mean, your antique shop. He said, but it's not an antique. I said, well, no, most of the rest of the stuff you're flogging in there. So, so he said, well, we can try it. Anyway, I was selling a coffee table a week. Every week I'd sell a coffee table for £5. £5 back then was a living man's wage, to raise a family on. And every few weeks I'd have another bicycle finished and get another £4.10. And so I was making money, and things had gotten better and improved with food and everything. But the experiences of growing up with very little served me in the way that I learned to make some monies. And so that was an interesting way to grow up. But I had learned all these trades, so I was also making money on weekends, renovating rooms for my dad, for other people. And so all in all, I was doing pretty well and saving for my first car. But that's the story about the financial part.
That was awesome, Courtney. Thank you so much. And we'll be back later for more Sunday sessions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.